welcome along to the class. Just setting up here now. Is ever anyone tuning in later, just skip ahead a minute or two and we will be into the workout. I'm just going to set myself up on Facebook here. Now, let's see how that is. A bit of an angle. Let's get that better. Yeah, that should be okay. Okay, so welcome along to the class. Anyone tuned in later in the day, I know we do have viewers from abroad. Do just skip ahead a minute or two and we will be straight into the workout. I'm delighted to be back with Joe's off for a couple of days. So great to be back delivering the classes, especially COPD, a class which I really enjoy delivering. So as ever, the class today is with a view to COPD. So just bear that in mind, the considerations, the way I run this session is with a view to COPD and lung conditions. However, I appreciate not everyone has COPD who will be participating today, and that's fine. You're more than welcome along. It's still a really enjoyable, it seems to be a session that people really enjoy. So do just bear that in mind. I will lead the exercise in standing. However, we can adapt and perform any movements from a seated position also. Finally, we have a survey which will be linked in the comments. And that's just on the impact of our videos at home, Siel Bleu at home. So we just want to get some feedback. And if anyone has a little bit of time just to fill in that survey, we'd greatly appreciate it. So that's probably enough talk for me. I'll just make sure everything's okay there. Patrick, Denise, Sally, Pat, all very welcome along. So what I'll do is I'll just get straight into movement, get us warmed up and ready to go. I will lead the warm-up seated, just to make it universal that we can all get started with a warm-up. So let's get into it. Very simple movements first. I'm just going to begin shrugging the shoulders up and down just to get a little bit of movement. And I am sitting nice and tall in my chair. I'm not slouched at all. Just bringing those shoulders up and down just to get a little bit of movement. Straight up and down, just getting those shoulders moving. Okay, and then the survey has been linked in the comments, which I mentioned there. So maybe after the video, just if you had a couple of minutes to spare, just to fill in that survey, we'd greatly appreciate just the feedback, just to see the impact of the classes and how you found them, and we'd really greatly appreciate that. So next, I'm going to bring arms across my chest, pull back nice and wide, and then back in. So just think opening out. Any tightness around the chest. We're going to be using weights today, so I should have said that as well, just to have your weights at the ready. That can be tins, bottles of water, anything at all that you want to use as weight. And even if you're performing the session in standing, just to have a good sturdy chair. Okay, so next movement, I will fold the arms, just bring hands together, rotate the body right, rotate to the left. And very important that we take the time to warm up. We'll get moving with some tough, challenging exercises as ever, but very important, we just get the body warmed up, slowly bringing the heart rate up, just loosening out all the major limbs in our body here. I'm getting my rotation side to side. And back down. Next, what I want to do is just bring my right arm in front, clench the hand, put one hand on the chest, and just begin slowly bringing that arm from front to side, just opening out from your shoulder. So I'm getting a little bit of movement from my shoulder. And if that chest is a little bit tight, just getting a little bit of a stretch as well. So just opening out from front to side. And we'll do the same on the left. So my left arm is out. I clench my hand and I just open from front to side. So again, I'm just getting a little bit of movement from that shoulder before we start to get into some of those major movements. Excellent. Next, arms straight, clenched hands, just raised directly in front. Just switching on the shoulders here. And then with arms by my side, I'll do the same in a side or a lateral position, just raising the arms out to the side. Just to get those shoulders switched on, really important before we get into kind of weight bearing and loading the joints with weight. Just making sure everything feels good. Next, straight into a little light march. Just making sure I get a nice big lift to the knees. Nice and soft as I land the feet down. I try and avoid stamping the feet down, just keeping it nice and light. And next, I will begin extending the legs one at a time, just switching on the legs. I think before we do movements like a squat, for example, we like to just switch the legs on, make sure everything is feeling good. Okay. And then right leg open to the side. Left leg open to the side. So that's opening out from the hips a little bit. We have some hip work today in the session. So again, I'm just checking that the hips feel good. I can get a little bit of movement. I'm not dragging the feet. I'm just nice and light as I open out to the sides. And next, just digging the heels out one at a time, keeping my body moving, digging the heels out. Remember, when we get into our main circuit, we like to work at a level of 3 to 4 out of 10 on the exertion scale. So out of 0 to 10, we will push at a level of roughly 3 or 4. Next, digging the heels out to the sides, stretching across, keeping myself moving. The main thing is just that I keep my body moving. I'm active, warming up, feeling myself warming up. Next, bring the feet back in, stretch the toes out in front. Again, there's lots of movement here. Tapping the toes out, keeping the movement nice and light. Tapping the toes. And finally, stretching the toes out to the sides. Slightly diagonal plane here, tapping the toes out. And just finish out, nice light march. And 3, 2, 1, and that's us. Okay, so warm up is completed. In a sense, a continuation of our warm up next, with some aerobic work. So I will lead this movement in standing. I'm going to march, and this is something I always say in the classes. I like to get people up, moving, walking. Really important, working the lungs. We like to keep this in a contained space because we are at home, so I'm obviously not going to start walking up and down. So I'm going to keep this all on the spot. If, however, you want, you can do this work in a seated position. So marching paired with hip work. And just to say, if you're not comfortable leading it and standing, I want you to adapt the hip movement I do with this opener. Open your right leg to the side, and then you can do the same with the left. So you can just adapt to a seated position if needed. Otherwise, I want you to take up a standing position, have your chair alongside you, and I'm going to set us onto the clock now, okay? I want us to get us moving in 3, 2, 1, and I want to start marching. Okay, so remember, every bit of work we do in this section today, 3 to 4, remember that on the scale, you should still be able to talk. If at any point you feel breathless, you just stop, rest, and return when you feel ready. I have my water at the ready, and we're good to go with movement number 1. Okay, so holding on to the back of your chair, lift your right leg to the side. So a little bit of hip abduction. So we're just going to break our marching up with a lower limb movement, working my hip. My body stays straight, and I open my right leg out from the hip. I'm keeping the toes of my foot straight ahead, and I just continue to lift out. Okay, so we work for a movement for about 50 seconds, and then I break it up with marching. If you feel you need to rest at any point, you take a breather. And if you prefer to perform this seated, as I showed just a minute ago, you can perform this movement in seated. And I'll get my last couple of reps here. And return back to march, okay? So bringing it back to a march. Now, I want you to set the pace of the march at a pace that's comfortable, that you can continue, that you're not feeling really breathless. If you find the pace is too tough, slow your march down, even hold on to the chair for a little bit of support. Otherwise, continue at a nice, good, moderate pace with your march, keeping your body moving. And 3, 2, 1. Turn to face your chair again. I'm just leading it from in front. Lift to the sides. So now I work on the left leg. Toes face the head, opening out from the hip. Upper body remains unchanged. So I'm lifting that left leg out. Okay, breathing all the time, never holding your breath during a movement. I'm just lifting out to the sides. So, again, I'm keeping myself active. This is all about movement. It's aerobic. Working the lungs is the main purpose here. So think the equivalent of being out for a brisk walk, being on a bike, being on a treadmill. A little bit of intensity, a little bit of challenge. Think of those little things like walking down to the shop, walking around the park without becoming breathless. That's what we're looking to build and improve. Now, I return back to my march. Okay? So, broken up with marching, we will repeat that hip work on the right leg and on the left leg. 2 more rounds. At any point, I slow the pace down. Don't feel you have to match the pace I go at. I want you to set a pace that feels comfortable to you, that you don't feel uncomfortable. So you must set the pace that's right for you. Next, bringing it back to my hip, right leg, lifting out to the side. Now, you guys can just turn to your chair and that's fine, but I just want to make sure you see the movement, which is why I quickly take the chair out in front. Again, my upper body stays straight. My toes of my right foot are faced forward to the camera. And I just open out from that hip. So I'm trying not to tilt my body on this one. And I'm holding on to my chair for support. Maybe what looks like quite a simple movement, it does get a little bit harder as we go along. So you might start to feel that hip. And also your standing leg. I haven't touched on that yet, but it is keeping you strong, stable in this position, particularly around the hip here. And back to march. So again, just go straight back to your march. Now, if you're finding the pace getting tough, slow it right down, catch your breath, hold on to that chair for support, perform any of this seated if you prefer. But if everything's feeling good, just continue at a nice moderate pace. Say the main thing is we're active, we're moving here, working the lungs. You can hear in my voice that I'm working. I'm not idle, that I'm active, I'm moving. And back to the left side, holding my chair. Lift the left leg out. So my toes are pointed ahead. My body stays straight. And I'm opening out from that hip. And that standing leg is keeping me strong and balanced here. I can still talk. So yes, there might be a little bit of a pant in the breath that I'm active, I'm working. You can hear maybe a little bit of breathing, a little bit of puff, but I'm not out of breath. I can still talk. And that's a good indicator. Yes, I'm active. Yes, I'm working hard, but I'm not out of breath and I'm not feeling in any way uncomfortable. And that's what we want throughout the session. The last couple of seconds with this movement. And back to march. So again, I just bring it straight back to march. We have one last round to finish. We will do our right hip abduction and we will do our left hip abduction, broken up with marching. So I'm just going to keep myself moving, just checking in there. Okay, so Derek, on YouTube. Okay, hopefully Facebook is okay there. Seems to be okay. So we'll just continue on into my right leg next. Hip. Holding on to the back of the chair, lifting the right leg out. My toes are faced straight ahead, and I'm just lifting that right leg out directly to my side. Okay. So yeah, any issues if we're on Facebook and YouTube, so maybe if one platform just isn't working well, It could be the internet, anything at all, and just to swap between the two maybe. I'm keeping that upper body straight. I'm opening my leg out from the hip with the toes face straight ahead. So maybe by this third round, really feeling that hip. And as I say, that standing leg also very important here as well, keeping me strong and balanced as I open that leg out. Breathing all the time. And return to march. Okay. So again, this is my last round. Working the left hip again. Whether the first exercise, whether the last exercise, you must make sure you feel comfortable. There's no pressure to finish something out if you're feeling breathless. We know we can always take a little breather and rest as required. Okay, so last couple of seconds here. 3, 2, 1, and back to my left hip. Okay, so holding on to that chair, body straight, lifting the leg out. So the toes of my left foot pointed straight ahead, opening out from that hip, keeping the body nice and straight. And again, it's not wrong to feel that standing leg as well. It comes up all the time in classes. People say, I feel that standing side just as much. And that's absolutely fine to feel. Again, make sure you feel comfortable. Just working hard, but always can still talk, not struggling for words, not completely breathless. Always breathing, never holding your breath during the movement. Last couple of seconds. And we'll get one more. And rest, okay? So I want you to take a rest at this point. That can be as simple as resting hands on the back of the chair. Just take a little bit of pressure off the lungs here. Some of you may prefer to sit down and just kind of physically rest the arms down on the legs. And that's something anyone with COPD will be quite familiar with. Just a resting strategy. Take a little pressure off the lungs, air in, air out, and just take a little bit of recovery air. Okay. So take a few seconds, take a drink of water there, and I will just set up my timer for our strength work and just checking in there. All good, perfect. Thanks a lot. Good to know. So that was your aerobic work. As I say, the purpose of that is just think of building up endurance in the lungs. Those little things like going down to the shop, walking around the park without that fear of becoming breathless. So we're just building up a little endurance in the lungs with movements, and also working a lower limb movement with the hips, which is very important as well. So I'm going to push into a little bit of strength work next. Again, every movement can be adapted and performed seated, but I will lead the movements in standing. We will work for 60 seconds on the clock, and there'll be 25 seconds in between just to get set up into the next movement. So there'll be no rush. You don't need to hurry into the next one or anything like that. So also just to have your weights ready and to have your chair at the ready. So first movement that I'm going to lead with is a sit to stand, but I want to show first of all an adaption. So if you don't want to do this movement with me, the standing version I show, a very simple adaption, leg extension with maybe a 2-3 second pause every time you extend the leg out. So very simple leg extension. Otherwise, I want you to take hold of one dumbbell or one weight, and I'm going to lead this as a sit to stand, but you might like to turn it into a full squat, but I will lead this today as a sit to stand. So I'm going to put the clock on. Oops. I'm going to hold my weight. I'm sitting down, feet about hip width apart, a little bit forward in my chair, holding the weight at chest height. I lean my upper body forward. I push up nice and tall, and then sit back to the chair. I'm going to keep those knees in line with my toes, that my knees aren't caving in. My chest is out proud, and I'm looking straight ahead all the time. I push my heels into the ground and back down. Now, I'm in no hurry with this movement. I take my time and I just reset every rep. If you're not liking the movement, just to perform the seated adaptation which I demonstrated. Again, I lean forward, up nice and tall, keeping my back straight all the time. And with that added challenge of holding a little bit of weight, which is why I'm leading as a sit to stand. If, however, you prefer, you can turn this into a full squat, and that's no problem at all. And rest. Okay, second movement. I want you to take your 2 weights. I will perform this standing. You can perform it seated also. So this is to work my chest. What I want to do is take my 2 weights with the palms of the hands faced up and merge the weights together. Create a V shape up at your chest. So again, weights together, V shape up at chest. I begin. I push the weight forward and I return back in. Press and return. So how that looks from the side. I breathe out as I press and back in. The weight does not need to touch my chest. I keep it in line with my chest. Returning maybe an inch or 2 from the chest. Press straight out, back in. But I want to keep those weights in line with my chest, which is why I've merged the 2 weights together with this V shape. So this helps me control and feel the chest. My elbows are nice and wide in this position, and I just focus on pressing the weight directly in front. I like this movement just to kind of contain and keep the movement and feeling in the chest. And rest. Brilliant stuff. Next movement. Rest the 2 weights down. We're going to perform heel raises. So I'm going to have my chair set up. I'm going to come nice and close to the chair. I like to not stand too far away. I like to be close to the chair, body straight, toes face forward. I lift my heels up, right up onto the toes, and back down. Again, heels up, and back down. You'll see I'm just taking maybe a second to pause to the top, back down. I get as physically high up as I can, toes of my feet. So right up onto the toes, and back down. So heels up, and back down. And we'll keep this one going. Again, getting a good pause as I lift up to the top. I'm making sure my body stays straight. I'm not allowing my hips to sway forward and back. I want to keep all the work on the back of my lower legs, on my calf of each leg. So right up and back down. There's a little pause between every rep, just so that I don't bounce up and down. There is a little bit of control with each part. And we'll get last repetition. And back down. Excellent. And again, that is a movement that can be adapted and performed seated in exactly the same way, lifting the heels up. So, next movement, tricep or back of the arm kickback. So, I'm going to set this up and I'll show it a seated version as well. I've just paused the clock briefly so we're not under any pressure here. How this will look. Your feet, my knees will be nice and soft. I'm going to just push the hips back a little bit, elbows up, and pressing the weights back. So I must be able to keep a nice straight back in this position. If this just looks a little bit uncomfortable or awkward, the way I would do this in seated, I would sit myself forward in the chair, or just gently tilt forward, bring the elbows up, and press the weights back. So I'll just press back from a seated position, keeping my back straight, pushing from the elbows. But I will bring us back to that in standing. So again, let's set up in standing, which I will lead from. So my knees are soft. I don't want to be too rigid here. I just gently tilt and then I push those hips back, 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 back. My back is straight, elbows up. And now the action is to push the weights back from my elbow. So I press the weights behind and back in. And let's begin. Breathe out as I press the weights back. And air in as I return. My upper arm stays fixed. And the movement is from my elbow on each side. If you find the movement difficult, you can try this without weight, or you can perform it in a seated position. Again, I want to feel the back of the arms and make sure my back feels comfortable. You may, in practice, be a little bit higher up in this position, but if you feel your back is bending, I want you to sit down to the chair or try and perform it without any weight and just get a feeling with the back of the arm on each side. So back of the arm, back of the arm. Again, movement is from my elbows, pressing the weights back. Last couple of seconds and rest down. Excellent. Okay, so next movement, arm curl. Okay, so we'll grab our 2 weights again. I'm going to take hold of those 2 weights. Take a couple of seconds here. Just catch your breath. So how this will look, I'm holding my weights, elbows in, and you can perform this in a seated position also. Lift the weights and rotate, and then back down. So just lift and rotate. Again, I will breathe out as I curl the weights up. Inhale as I lower the weights. As I curl and rotate the weights, I think about squeezing the arm. Physically squeeze the weights as I approach my shoulders. I want to get nice tension and feeling on the arms. So again, lift and rotate. Again, lift and rotate. Physically clenching, whether it's tins, weights, bottles, whatever's in your hand, physically clenching as you curl towards the shoulders. Last couple of seconds. And 3, 2, 1, and last rep. So let the weights down. Take a little breather. Sit down into your chair. I'm just going to open a little door here. Let some more air in here. So, why don't you take a breather? So maybe that's just resting on the back of the chair. Catch your breath. Take some air in. If, like you, it's warm where you are, open the door, let some extra air in, or just sit down and take a little breather, okay? So, what I would always say is, when you've completed 1 round, ask yourself how that all felt. Effort scale, 0 to 10. 3 to 4 is the intensity we look for. Yes, I should feel some challenge in some of the muscles. Might feel a good challenge, maybe a little bit out of breath in a sense that you can hear in your voice that you're working a little bit of a pant. However, we are not completely breathless. You should still be able to talk. So if you find you can't talk comfortably, maybe that's an indication that you're pushing too hard. If any movement feels painful, sore, change, adapt the movement. Don't persist with a movement that doesn't feel good. If, however, everything feels good, we will get into straight in to second round. Okay, and after this second round, I'll go through a breathing technique as well. So let's begin. Remember, if you don't like your sit to stand, you can perform a seated leg extension. Otherwise, let's get into it again. Okay, so holding my weight, I'm going to sit forward a little bit in my chair. Feet nice and flat onto the ground. I'm going to bring them back, so I'm in a nice central position. Knees will stay in line with toes, and I'll begin. I lean forward, standing up nice and tall, back down. And I've added a challenge, just bringing a little bit of weight into it. You can, of course, perform this without weight if you prefer. You can turn this movement into a full squat if you prefer. Whichever version, I want to keep my knees in line with my toes. I want to keep my back straight. And there's always a little bit of hip movement when I come forward to stand up tall, and then by sitting back into the chair. Those hips are always moving here. My chest stays out, and my head looks forward all the time. I press my heels into the ground as I stand up, and then I lower the hips, sitting back into the chair. Remember, breathing all the time. And taking a little pause between every rep as needed, not to rush this movement. Little separation with every rep. and rest. Next movement, our press. So I will grab my second dumbbell. Again, this is just a nice adaptation for me. Let's pause the clock again briefly. People do find it difficult to connect with the chest. And for example, a typical chest press, I find people tend to lurch the weights out. And also they find it hard to keep in line with the chest, which is why I'm showing this version or adaptation today. So again, the setup. I want the palms of my hands faced up to the ceiling, holding the two weights. Merge them together. And you'll see how I create that V shape. It just lets my elbows sit in a comfortable position rather than kind of tight and tense. So V shape, weights in line with chest, and begin. Press and return the weights in. Press, return in. I breathe out as I press. Air in as I return. From the side, how that looks. Again, you'll see I can keep the weights level with my chest. They're not dropping below. Of course, I can perform this seated if I prefer. And even if this is a really difficult movement, try the action without any weight and just try and connect with the movement, thinking about your chest all the time. Again, I maintain that V shape, the two weights merge together. I'm pressing directly out from my chest. A nice smooth action. I always like to think when I'm connecting with my chest of a smooth press as opposed to maybe kind of boxing or lurching the weight out really fast. Keep a nice, smooth, controlled press. And rest. Excellent. Movement number 3, heel raises. Okay, so again, what I'm going to do is just approach my chair, stand nice and tall. Again, if you prefer, you can perform the movement seated. Just walk the feet back and the same action. So let's begin. Heels up, back down. And again, I like to hold a position near the chair. It just stops the hips from swaying back and forth. We want to keep this body straight and keep all the work through the back of the lower legs on our calves. So again, heels up, right up on your toes, back down. And again, breathing all the time, never holding that breath. And I'm going to get a little pause over the top as I get right up onto the toes. As I go along, I think about getting more and more every time, right up onto the toes. My body is straight. I'm just going up and back to the floor. Last couple of seconds here. And one more. And rest. You can just shake the legs out lightly after that one if needed. Again, I'll just briefly pause the clock because I know this movement takes a little bit more setup. Again, I'll just demonstrate from standing and seated. So if you don't like this arm movement, the one I lead in standing, you can adapt this to seated. So sit into your chair, walk yourself forward, lean that body, it's nice and straight, tilted forward, elbows back, press the weight behind. So just pushing the weight back from the elbows in a seated position. I will now just show the setup if we're leading in standing. So reset the clock there. So again, knees nice and soft. Number 1, I'm not too rigid. I just soften my stance. My hips push back, 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 back. My back is straight. Elbows raised up. And I begin pushing the weights back from my elbows, pressing back. So what I want to do here is feel the back of my upper arms. My back should feel comfortable. There's no tension or pain. And my only focus is on pushing those weights behind my body. The movement is from the elbows. So think your lower arm physically moves from the elbow, but your upper arm stays fixed in position. Remember, your back should stay straight. Your stance should be nice and soft. and you're feeling the back of the arms. You can try this movement without weight or from the seated position. Breathe out as I press. Air in as you return. Last couple of reps. And rest. I straighten my position. Take a couple of seconds rest and we will move to arm curl. Remember, if at any point you feel really breathless or uncomfortable, we want you to rest, sit down, catch your breath, and no pressure at all. Main thing here. So one final movement in this second round. Take hold of our two weights, elbows in by my sides, roughly in position, and let's begin. Lift and rotate the weight. So again, lift and rotate. I'm just curling the weights up to the shoulders with the rotation. So I'm just opening up the arm, thinking front of the arm, bicep with this movement. Again, I breathe out as I curl. Inhale as I lower the weights. As I approach the shoulder, I physically squeeze the weight in my hands. And that just helps me to connect and really feel the arms working. And then I just return the weights fully back down, making sure I get a nice stretch as well. So think as I curl the weights up, I shorten, I contract the muscle, and then I stretch it back out as I lower the weights down. You're getting a really nice feeling in the arms. And rest. So we'll lower the weights down. Again, rest, recover. It's afraid these weights will drop down onto my feet. Okay, safe there. So again, if you want to just sit, rest the hands on the back of the chair or to sit down. But I'm just going to lead us through a little bit of breathing work and then we'll have 1/3 final round. So we'll keep this pause there. Stop her talking at me there. So by all means, continue to rest if you need. But just a little bit of breathing recovery strategy. We'll do our pursed lip breathing. So sit nice and comfortable in your chair. Just make sure you feel comfortable. Big deep breath in through the nose. Now, as if I had a straw in my mouth, a nice slow exhale. So just mindful that I don't whoosh all the air out, as if you had a straw and you were just physically, slowly exhaling all out through a straw. So again, in through my nose, pursed lips, reset again, air in through nose, nice slow exhale, pursed lips. And again, inhale through the nose, out through a straw. One more time, inhale. Slow exhale, slow release. Okay, so 1/3 final round. If you don't mind, just to hit the like, just let me know if it's all feeling okay so far. So if you feel any sort of good questions, so if you feel soreness with any movement, honestly, I would just leave that movement out. So you shouldn't really feel any pain. If the feeling you feel with a movement is pain, just immediately leave that exercise out. It's not worth persisting. With any exercise, you may feel muscular challenge. For example, the arms on an arm curl, I might feel the calves kind of sore, muscularly sore as I lift the heels up. But if, for example, like your knee, your hip, if somewhere feels a little bit aggravated, just you're not really sure what you're feeling, I would say to leave that exercise out. Either choose a seated version or just choose a movement that you are familiar with that you know doesn't cause irritation. So really good question. And like that, anything at all you're not sure about, please do let us know and we can check back after. So one more round, let's get into it. sit to stand. So again, this can be performed as a leg extension. Remember, leg extension if the sit to stand isn't good. But I will lead with my weight, sit to stand. So I'm a little bit forward in my chair, my feet back a little bit. Nice and upright, my back is straight, chest is out, holding my weight. And I will begin in 3, 2, 1. So I lean my body forward, standing up nice and tall, and then sitting back into the chair. So again, my knees will stay in line with my toes. I don't want them to cave in at all here. I keep my back nice and straight, making sure I'm not bending my back as I stand up tall. Really fundamental is movement in the hips. Sitting back into the chair and then coming forward as I stand up. I take a little bit of separation between every rep. I.e. that I'm in no hurry. The last thing I want here is to bounce up and down really quick. There should be a little bit of separation with every rep. Again, I'm holding the weight for a little extra challenge. You can perform this without the weight. If you're very comfortable, some of you may like to perform just a regular squat, and that's okay. Just for today, I'm leading with a sit to stand. Just to kind of, nice to reset the movement. We've probably been doing a lot of squats. So just to kind of reset the movement and just mechanically getting the hips moving, keeping your back straight. And rest. Second movement, our chest press adaption. So again, set up, palms of the hands face up, holding your 2 weights, and just physically bring them together in that V shape, up at chest level. My elbows, you'll see how that position is comfortable. I am not tight and rigid. So V shape, holding the weights, and begin. Press, return back in. Press, return back in. So breathe out as I press. Inhale as I return. As I press out, I'm in a nice straight line with my chest. All the time. I don't need to bring those weights too tight into the chest. I can stay maybe an inch or 2 out from my chest. I focus on a nice smooth press. Slowly return. Breathe out as I press. Inhale as I return. Again, this position just allows me to keep all that tension in my chest. So I maintain the 2 weights merged together and holding them in that V shape. My elbows are very comfortable here. And I just keep all the tension through my chest as I press. Final reps. We'll get 1 more. And back down. Brilliant stuff. Third movement, again, just hopefully those weights don't fall. Perfect. So again, heel raises. So this is where I will approach the back of my chair. I want to keep my shape nice and tall. And that's why I'm just kind of showing this from the side. What I'm always keen to avoid is the hips taking over, because in a sense, we take the tension off the back of the lower legs that way. And it might not be intentional, but this will just help keep the movement locked in. Holding your chair near the back of it, and I begin lifting my heels up. So I get right up onto the toes of my feet. And thanks very much. I know people hit the like there, so it's just great to know that roughly everything is feeling okay. So I do really appreciate that. Keep your body straight and lifting those heels right up, just getting up onto the toes of your feet. Little pause at the top. I think the only way I can go is up and back to the floor. So right up, back to the floor. Again, all the work is through the back of the lower legs and my calves. So exercise like this, you might feel muscular tension, a little bit of soreness in the muscle, and that's generally okay. Once you're not feeling pain, any kind of sharp pain or discomfort, but a little bit of challenge through the muscle, might expect that here. Last couple of seconds. And 1, and down. Okay. Our kickback next. Again, This is just one I'm kind of keen to demonstrate every time, the seated and standing version, just because there is a little bit more to it maybe than some of the other movements. So again, if you're not liking the movement I showed from standing, walk forward with your 2 weights, gently tilt your body forward, elbows up, pressing the weights back in exactly the same way we do from the standing position. Leading from standing, my setup is the same, but now I have to just first soften the stance of my knees. So I'm nice and soft. I push the hips back, 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 back. So my upper body is straight but tilted forward. Elbows up, press the weights back. So again, I can return the weights in as much as I like, but just pressing back. So physically pressing the weights back. Movement from my elbows. Breathe out as I press away. Inhale, take some air back in as the weight returns. My upper arm should stay fixed in position. It doesn't move. The only movement is from my elbows as I press the weights back. You may find, even with a little bit of weight, this is a tough movement. You can practice this with no weight. If you can feel the back of the arms active and your back feels comfortable, then that's great. If not, maybe try it without weight and take a seated position if you need. But back of the arms is my main purpose here, or main goal to feel. And rest. Okay, so back into a nice straight position. We worked back of the arm. Now we'll work front of the arm. Couple of seconds rest, so just catch your breath in between as ever. And we will shortly set up. So hands on the 2 weights, elbows by my side. And let's begin in 3, 2, 1. So lift the weights, rotate. Just making sure we have that nice rotation every time. Just really opening out the arm. A couple from the side. And just to be mindful, your upper body stays straight. Sometimes we can start to arch the back a little bit, which we don't want. Making sure that back stays straight. All the work and tension should be through the arms. As I approach the shoulders, I physically clench the weights in my hand. I'm breathing out as I curl up. Inhale as I lower. Again, all that work, all that challenge through the arms. I'm not feeling anywhere else, just those arms. And we're going to move in, last couple of repetitions. Remember, first or last exercise, if you're feeling breathless, you rest. There's no pressure. And rest. Brilliant stuff. Well, we'll let the 2 weights down. Again, if you need to just recover, again, remember, maybe just rest the hands back of the chair. Just take some of that pressure off the lungs. Catch your breath. And again, that's a recovery strategy the guys with COPD will be familiar with. Or again, if seated, maybe slightly rest the arms. But honestly, you guys will know what feels comfortable to you. Once you feel comfortable and you're getting some air in, main thing. So we will shortly cool down and do a little bit of breathing as well. We'll go back to some pursed lip breathing as well. So brilliant work. We worked our aerobic work. Again, think about working the lungs, that endurance work, and mimicking, as I say, building up, being able to go for a walk with that confidence of not becoming breathless. And then our strength block of work, a mix of upper and lower body work on the clock. I think we were working our chest, our arms, front and back. We worked our legs, and we worked our calves as well, back of those lower legs. So a lot of good hard work. So really well done. What we want to now do is just start the process of relaxing the body down with a couple of stretches. So I'll perform this all in seated next. So I will turn my chair to the side for this first movement. I'm going to sit back into my chair, raise the right knee up, and hold on to that knee. I'll gently pull that knee in and hold on to that position. So my back is in a nice straight position. I might feel my hip a little bit. Might feel lower back, hopefully feeling good. And I might feel your glute here as well, a little bit of a stretch. So we're going to hold position. Just another couple of seconds and then rest down. We will then bring the left knee up. Just going to hold on to that knee. Gently pull the knee back in towards your chest. Again, my lower back feels good. Feel a little stretch to the glute. And my hip, I can feel a little bit of connection here as well. And I just hold position for a couple of seconds. And back down. Next, just from your seated position, straighten the two legs out. And I want you to just point those toes forward. Hold for a couple of seconds here. Just maintain the position. And then to pull those toes back in. Think about stretching out those calves here, which we worked on today. So pull back. Again, once more, point the toes forward and hold. And then again, lightly pull the toes back and hold for a couple of seconds here. So hold that position. And down. One more lower body movement, stretch. I'm sitting forward in my chair. My right leg is out, I'm on my heel. My upper body is straight. I gently lean forward until I feel a little bit of a stretch on the back of that leg, my upper leg. I don't shoot forward. I very gently lean forward, hold position for a few seconds here. And back in, reset. Left leg out on my heel. Leg is straight, body is tall. And I want to just gently lean that upper body forward. Very small movement, very slow movement. I now feel a stretch back of that left leg, and I just maintain my position. And back in. Excellent. Okay. Moving up to my upper body. Breathing work, that is important. And we will include that now. Arms by my side. Lightly pull back. Just think about opening out, stretching out your chest. So just pull those arms back, holding position. And back in, reset. Once more. Pull back, open out that chest, hold position. And thanks very much for the comments along the way. As I said, after being off for a couple of days, I was hoping I wouldn't be too rusty. So hopefully we enjoyed the session. Really enjoyed delivering it today. But hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. And thanks for the comments along the way. We'll just finish our last couple of movements here. And down. Excellent. Next one. Let's go for a back stretch. So upper body. Fingers together. Palms of the hands faced out. Stretch out in front. So how that looks is my arms have straightened out from my chest. I want you to hold that position. A couple of seconds. And back in. And then once more, straighten the arms out. Big long hold. Maintain that position. Spend a little time in this stretch. And back down. Perfect. Okay. We'll go one more for the shoulders. So again, I'm just going to sit slightly forward in the chair. Gentle little tilt. Arms by my side. Pull back from the shoulders. And back down, reset once more. Body is straight. Small tilt forward. Gently pull those arms back. Hold position. And also just a reminder, we have a survey which will be attached in the comments. And we're just looking to get feedback on the at-home video. So all these exercise classes we've been delivering online, we're just looking to get a little bit of feedback. So we'd really appreciate if you had a couple of minutes just to fill in those surveys, or whenever you get the chance. Would really appreciate that. And back in. Okay. Now, last but not least, some breathing work. And this is something I never like to rush. So just take your time. and a little bit of light breathing work. So really important in relation to COPD. So again, pursed lip. I generally just take one method of breathing and just focus on that in the class. So air in through nose, as if out through a straw, slow exhale. So the idea is I control, slowly release that out rather than whoosh the air out, as I say. So again, in through nose, nice slow exhale. Again, go at your own pace, regardless of mine. Think of doubling the time on the exhale. In through nose, slow exhale. Okay, we'll do 2 or 3 more to finish here. Inhale through the nose. Air all the way in, filling my belly with air, and slow exhale. Two more to finish. Inhale. Slow exhale. And then one last time. Inhale through the nose. Nice slow exhale. Okay, so that's just a little bit of breathing work, and I say it's really important. Naturally, if we do become breathless, the tendency is to kind of gulp, grasp for air, and not to forget about the exhale. Really important for the exchange to take place. Exhale, really important as well. Just remember that little tip. So that's the session finished. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed that. As I said, hopefully all the COPD groups, hopefully everyone is keeping well. I know all the trainers really enjoy the groups. I miss seeing everyone. So hopefully we're all keeping well. And I'll chat to you again, everyone. Brilliant work. Enjoy the rest of your day. Well done, YouTube. Well done, Facebook. Thanks very much, Derek. Thanks for the comments. Thank you.